Okay, so, listeners sent us like this huge pile of stuff, interviews and articles and things, all about, this word that's been kind of popping up everywhere these days.
Yeah.
Autocracy,
Yeah,
right?
I've seen that too. It's everywhere.
Exactly. So we thought, okay, let's do a deep dive, not just like define it, dictionary style, but really get into what does it actually look like? How does this autocracy thing actually like creep into a society? And why should we even care?
Yeah, I'm with you. It's definitely a question that feels pretty, I guess, urgent right now.
Yeah.
And I think all this stuff focusing on Anne Applebaum, she's like a perfect guide for this kind of deep dive,
Totally.
because she really, she gets beyond just like the simple picture, right? You
Yeah.
know, the dictator in a military uniform kind of thing.
Right. Like it's got to be more than that.
Yeah, for sure. She helps us see autocracy as a system, like this process where power gets concentrated in the hands of just a few, and it slowly erodes like the institutions we rely on and the freedoms we take for granted.
So, okay, let's break that down a bit. Like, what are some of the signs, the hallmarks of an autocratic system? Because, it's probably not always super obvious, right?
No, it's not. That's the thing. It's sneaky, and that's why Applebaum uses this really powerful metaphor. She talks about autocracy as like an infection.
Oh, okay.
Right? So it spreads subtly like a virus, It exploits the divisions that already exist in a society, and it preys on like the weak spots, in the system.
So I guess kind of like a virus looking for the cracks in your immune system or something?
Exactly.
Okay, so how does this infection actually like work? What are the actual tactics they use to exploit these cracks, these weaknesses?
Well, one of I think the most cunning aspects of it is how it can actually twist the tools of democracy against itself.
Whoa, that's kind of messed up.
Right, like take Hungary, for example, right?
Mhm.
This is a country that Applebaum looks at really closely. Viktor Orban, he holds elections.
So it seems legit.
Right, on the surface. But he's been systematically undermining independent media, weakening the courts so they're not really independent anymore, and using all this like nationalist rhetoric to really consolidate his power.
Wow. So it's like dismantling the checks and balances, the things that are supposed to keep a democracy healthy,
Yeah.
but doing it slowly and deliberately.
Exactly. It's a slow burn, It's not a sudden takeover. It's this gradual erosion.
And that brings us to this whole Autocracy Inc. idea, right?
Yeah.
It's idea that it's not just about the government. It's like this whole network of players, right? It almost sounds like a business model for control.
It does, doesn't it? And I think that's exactly Applebaum's point. It's about this network of power that benefits from and perpetuates this concentration of control.
So like, who are these players?
Well, you see it in the rise of these oligarchs, these super rich individuals who are, tied to the regime. You see it in the control of the media, so the narratives, the information people are getting, it's all carefully managed. And even businesses that seem like they have nothing to do with politics, they become complicit.
Oh, wow. Like how?
Well, for example, Applebaum talks about Russia. There you have these energy companies with these super close ties to Putin, and they basically act as arms of the state.
Oh, wow.
They wield all this economic power to silence critics and maintain control. It's pretty insidious.
This is where it gets really interesting, I think, and maybe even a little bit disturbing, right? Because Applebaum points out that life under like an autocratic regime, it's not always this like dystopian nightmare. You know what I mean?
Right.
It can actually be surprisingly mundane,
Yeah, totally.
even tolerable, at least for a while.
Right.
So like, why is that so dangerous?
Well, that's the danger, isn't it? This mundanity, this feeling like things are okay. It breeds complacency. People adjust to this new normal, even if it means, accepting restrictions on their freedom. It's like that, I don't know if you've heard this one, the boiling frog analogy.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that.
If you throw a frog into boiling water, it'll jump right out. But if you put it in cold water and slowly heat it up...
Oh, right. They just sit there.
Exactly. They don't notice the gradual changes until it's too late.
So it's like we get used to the water getting hotter and hotter, and then boom, we're cooked.
Exactly. And that's, I think, one of the most insidious things about autocracy. It can creep up on you. You don't even realize what's happening until it's too late.
Okay, so we've been talking about this stuff, like globally, right?
Yeah.
But how do we connect this back to our own lives, to the political landscape we see, right here around us?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question, right? And I think that's where Applebaum's work becomes a real call to action. She's saying these aren't just problems happening over there in other countries. These warning signs, they're universal.
What kind of warning sign?
The erosion of trust in our institutions, the rise of all this disinformation and propaganda, the silencing of people who dare to disagree. These are things we need to be super vigilant about no matter where we live.
So I guess the key takeaway here is that, autocracy isn't this like dramatic in-your-face thing. It's not a sudden coup.
Right.
It's a process, right?
Yeah.
This slow creep that often takes root in like the everyday stuff, the seemingly small things that we might not even notice. And I guess recognizing those subtle shifts, that's our first line of defense.
I completely agree. Understanding how this stuff works, how autocracy actually takes hold, that's the first step to protecting our own freedoms, our own institutions.
Now, here's something to chew on, as we wrap things up here. We've been focusing on the political mechanics of autocracy, right? But what about the impact on culture?
Ooh, that's interesting.
Right? Like, how does it affect, art, literature, even the way we talk to each other? I think that's something worth exploring further, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. That's a whole other can of worms.
Right. But it's all connected.
Absolutely.
So keep your eyes open out there, folks. Autocracy might be closer than you think.
And it might look a lot more ordinary than you expect.
Thanks for listening.
See ya.